Hello, everybody. This is Hondo Carpenter, your Las Vegas Raiders beat writer on Sports Illustrated and the host of the Las Vegas Raiders Insider Podcast. As you may have already heard, Ben Johnson, at this point, at the time of this taping, is finalizing, but all signs are he will be the next Bears head coach. He's been in the process of assembling a staff. That's been going on for a little bit, and he's getting all of that together. We're going to dig into a little bit today on what happened, but we're going to spend most of our attention looking to what's coming. Um, there was shock around the league. Agents were talking about it was expected to happen. It wasn't me. Multiple people reporting that he was the front runner. Never said the deal was done, but certainly was the front runner. I know that the Raiders felt they had him. I know there were Raider players that felt they had him, and people that I talked to in Detroit, even as late as last night. I talked to one and said, "Do you happen to know, is he going to just talk to the Raiders, or is he going to talk to multiple teams?" And they said that they anticipated he would talk to a couple of teams just to figure everything out in his head. But he speaks to the Bears, and bam, it's done. Raiders lose him. He was their front runner. That is the guy that they had targeted. But it's not like there are not some great candidates out there. We've talked about him, Pete Carroll being one. Another name that I just was told now that someone believes is going to at least come into the picture is Liam Cohn, who's the offensive coordinator with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So I right now the names that I'm hearing around the league are it's Pete Carroll or Liam Cohn. But I think it may be a little early to say that right at this moment, because who knows? They probably have others in the back of their head that they interviewed and really liked. I don't think if you're the Raiders that Pete Carroll is a second place prize in the least, but he's a heck of a coach. And I know he fits more of what they liked at the very beginning when I told you that ideally they wanted a coach with experience, but were willing to be Tomlin, which happened when they visited with Ben Johnson. As far as the GM search, I think been telling you all along, Spytech was the leader. However, the interview of Newmark was because that's who Ben Johnson wanted as his guy, and that's why the Raiders certainly looked in that direction. With Ben going in another area, I still believe Spytech will end up being the general manager. As you know, he's the AGM with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and that's the connection, of course, because he's very familiar with Liam Cohn, the offensive coordinator there in Tampa Bay. There's going to be a lot of um, post looking at what happened here. And this is why the NFL has the process that they do. I talked about the other day. People said, "Why is this stretching on? It could make it where it was harder for the Raiders to hire Ben." Well, that's why you got to wait till, according to the NFL rules, till guys are done, till their teams are done. And that's exactly what happened. The Raiders felt confident around the league, the overwhelming consent. I think Ian Rappaport said it, or somebody talked about among agents in NFL. That is just the expectation that he's going there. Um, I know that I heard from people who were possibly going to join him in Las Vegas. And I know that that was the sentiment again from many in the building and outside around the NFL and in Detroit. In fact, last night, like I said, someone in the Detroit organization was telling me about the kind of guy the Raiders were getting, and he was 100% convinced. So there you go. That's the latest. Now, what do the Raiders do? Do they go for the young up and coming offensive mind like a Liam Cohn? Do they go for a Pete Carroll who's experienced, a Hall of Famer? You already know what you're getting with Pete. There's no experimentation. There's absolutely no guessing. I will tell you, I was working on an article for when Ben Johnson was going to get hired on the pros and cons of Ben Johnson. And there are a lot of pros, no denying that. Just because he's not going to the Raiders doesn't mean he isn't a great coach. But one of the cons that I heard that I thought was very interesting was that people talked about him being an offensive genius and all of that, but that he was kind of introverted and not a as motivational of a guy. In fact, one person told me he's a lot like Josh McDaniels. Great guy, great offensive mind, but he's kind of has that same personality. So I was going to talk about how does Ben Johnson address, not necessarily being like most head coaches and how they lead from the front. So that's a fascinating thing to look at. We're going to have a lot on that. We're going to continue to work the phones to find out everything that's going on. But again, I think Spytek now is clearly back in the lead to be the offensive coordinator because of his relationship with Brady. I think Pete Carroll it clearly has to be right up there, and Liam Cohn. But they've interviewed so many others. This could go in a million different directions. Overall, I've had a couple people email me and just simply say, what a disaster for the Raiders. I don't think it's a disaster for the Raiders at all. Yeah, that's the guy they wanted. Yep, that's the guy they thought they were going to get, and so did everybody else. But they didn't. And I've heard a couple of thoughts, but nothing I've been able to confirm as to why it didn't happen. I'll continue to work on that. But at the end of the day, you want somebody that wants to be there, and you want somebody that you want. And if the Raiders were to end up with Pete Carroll in this, nobody should be acting like this is a bad thing. Pete Carroll's a heck of a coach. Liam Cohn is certainly an option. Although I have said to you all along, I would think when you're a Raiders, you want somebody with experience. And I think that would be something that Liam Cohn would have to overcome. So there's a lot of information there. We're going to continue to work the phones. We're going to continue to bring you all the information that we can, but I wanted to get this out to you right away. Thank you for listening. And again, if you go back and listen to the first pod we did, we kind of talked about what they were looking for originally. And that's where they continued. Now, what direction do they go? I think the important thing is, and I don't expect this to happen, there can't be panic. Okay. This organization's not going to rise or fall on one hire. It's now finding the right one. But certainly they've interviewed enough people, they've talked to enough people that now it's not like they're starting over at ground zero. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you again tomorrow. Appreciate you listening. Have a wonderful day. Thank you.